Hi, everybody. Nice to meet everybody. Nice to see you. Good to see you, Wei.
Yeah. This is Amy. Good to see you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Amy Hodler. I'm the founder of Graph Geeks, graphgeeks.org, a graph community. And this is my good friend, Wei.
Weidong.
Yes.
I founded Cannabis. Yeah.
Yes.
And also part of
Graph
Geeks.
Geeks.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So Amy, I think many people has this question is what motivated you to start Graph Geek?
That's a good question. It's a slightly personal question because I will say I founded Graph Geeks partially because I was a little lonely. So many of you who are interested in the graphs in general know that a couple things. Yeah. One is graphs are all about relationships, and there's also not as many of us out there as we would like to have that kind of understand the importance of relationships. So when I started doing work on my own, I missed the graph community. And I wanted to find a way to bring people together and talk about graphs and basically open up the world of people who are interested in graphs to different technology and different people and just get people talking. Yeah.
Was there ever people come to you, like join the Graph Geek, but then ask you, what is a graph? Did that ever happen?
You know, that hasn't happened yet, but anybody who's interested in building more relationships, wants to understand how do I study relationships, but isn't sure what a graph is, you're absolutely welcome to join. We have a Ask Anything channel, so you can ask anything you want, ask newbie questions, that's totally fine. So, Wei, what motivated you to join us?
Well, actually, I can echo your sentiment. Even though being in the graph field, but also get lonely because really want to find like-minded people to come share the experience. It's fantastic to see other Graph Geeks out there.
Yeah.
How long have you been running Graph Geek?
It's been just a little over a year, maybe a year and 4 months. And so we started, if you think about starting from zero, in a little over a year, we have about 600 people on Discord, and we're a little over 1,400 that participate in webinars and podcasts and things like that. So phenomenal growth in a year. I'm really excited about it. And looking forward, just hoping to see things grow and engage people more as well.
What are the hot discussion subjects on Graph Geek these days?
Oh goodness, we are all over the place. So the fun thing about Graph Geeks is there are many communities out there that have a Discord or have a way to discuss. Neo4j has a really very robust community, and if people have technical questions specifically on how do I do this in this platform, they tend to get support from the vendor or that platform provider. But either when they don't get the answer they're looking for, or it's never been done, or they want to try more creative new ideas, we have a lot of practitioners, in fact, like mostly practitioners on Graph Geeks that like to discuss ideas on, hey, have you tried this? This is an alternative way. Has anybody ever done this like crazy weird thing? And do you have any advice? So we get questions about data modeling, about machine learning. We get questions about particularly like new research. And then we have also, so those are we get questions all over the place. But the other thing that I'm seeing develop, which is really exciting, is small communities and groups of special interest. So one that I know you are involved in is a study group around investigative sciences and how you do investigations. So it's a small group and the interactions is really wonderful. We have another new group on neurosymbolic. We have another group that's starting to look at, different like causal. And so it's also nice to see these very like even niche within graph, which, if you can believe that, graph and then even niche within that starting to form as well. So we have the general crazy questions, and then we have these very specialized interests, just a way to find each other, really.
Where does the people come from? Anybody visiting from Mars or Moon yet?
Not yet, but I would say right now we have a lot of people in the US, a lot of people in Europe, actually quite a significant number in out of London, Paris, Germany, starting to get some people coming in from Asia as well. So it's starting to see this kind of bubble up, but nobody from Mars yet. And of course, you would ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I know on social media platform these days, you have a lot of not very pleasant exchanges. There's a lot of shooting, like go any kind of platforms. Do you see any kind of problems on this community?
So far, I think with any community, you have misinterpretations, miscommunications. But so far, I will say the graph community is and this is why I think we all get lonely when we leave graph communities or we're not actively involved. Graph community people tend to value relationships very, very highly. And I think that bleeds over into our personal communications as well. And so I've been really very pleasantly surprised with how warm, opening, and kind people have been. I do think we've had occasional miscommunication. Usually people don't understand maybe a posting that with not enough explanation, but that's just been really minor, and I've just been really surprised at how well that's gone.
Yeah, that's my experience too, because in the other social medias, I often encounter negative interactions among people. But on the Discord channel of a Graph Geek, all I see is very positive, where people are very, very supportive. So that actually make me feel very good about it, because that's a community that I want to be part of it. Yeah. So thank you so much for creating this amazing community.
Well, thank you for bringing your kind self to the community. I will say that is part of our code of conduct, is understanding empathy and approaching things with kindness. And I think for the most part, people follow that when it's explicit. And I also think the more you build on that, that just creates a gravity of culture, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. So Wei, we are at Data Day Texas today, and I a question for you, because I know you've had a chance to go to a couple different sessions. You gave a wonderful session, but what are you seeing here, or what's some exciting things that you've seen here at Data Day Texas?
That's supposed to be an interview about you, but all right, I just throw in my couple cents here. Yes. So personally, I see this there's a big transition moment of created by large language model. More specifically, is the ability to transform unstructured data, which is vast majority, 80% of all the data out there, into a structured form that can be analyzed. And the analyzed part also depends on large language model. So for me, that is we're at a watershed moment about the graph suddenly become extremely relevant, because once you convert the unstructured data into the structured form, at least today it has to be in the graph database. And so that's a huge opportunity. The other thing really is I see a lot of a conversation about the data modeling, semantic data modeling, which is very exciting. I see a lot of people that bring up some realistic questions about how to model data in a practical way. So I wish that conversation gets out. Maybe in the graphic forum, we can have some conversation about the data modeling.
I have actually, it's funny you say that, because there was a couple speakers that were speaking about data modeling. And I was thinking, I need to have them on either a panel or a podcast to get more of these conversations, because I think data modeling in particular, there's many points of view on the right way to model data, and I'm not sure there really is a right way to do it. So getting people together and kind of talking and exposing them to different ways to do it, I think, is important. I'm also really interested in the possibility to do data model interoperability. Like, how do you go from one model to a different model? I don't know if anybody's doing that, but it's pretty interesting to think about if you could transform easily from one model to another. Then again, another watershed moment where, graphs are really relevant. The other thing that I am seeing, and it's kind of interesting, is the idea of using graphs in different ways, which as a graph person, I get excited. So it goes beyond domain expertise in a knowledge graph, but also how do you use it to, as a DAG, as a model to then either do causal inference, which is something that I'm very passionate about, is how do you understand why things happen, or other talks that I saw where you're using the graph as a workflow orchestration engine for LLMs and agentic workflows.
Yes.
So this idea of graph is no longer just a way to organize data, but you can use it as a computational framework. I'm very excited about that and where that's going to go as well in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I happened to be in your talk about causal graph.
Yeah,
It's a fascinating subject. It makes my brain twisting too, but I see a lot of applications, very practical applications out of it. So really love to see more coming from that research.
Absolutely. It's early days, but there are some really good open source tooling, and I think more tooling to make it easier for people to adopt those methods so they can understand not just the correlation of things, but what's the causal arrow? What's the causal arrow of why things are happening?
Yeah. So, Amy, I have one question I want to ask you. Organizing a community like this takes a lot of effort, dedication, sacrifice. You have to be willing to give. Do you have a like supporting team that, or just by yourself, and that helps make that happen?
Yeah, it's a community. And I have some team as well. So Dennis Irori is one of my co-teams. Mia Wilson is another person that is dedicated as a small team on GraphGeeks. But also people like yourself, are very helpful in supporting the different communities, the subgroups, helping us sponsor some events, getting some good T-shirts. Those are very important things, so we can identify each other at these events. So it's really, it's funny when you start there. It does take a lot of energy, and it's nice to start with a core team that can kind of build you up. But it's wonderful to see that when you ask for help, if you have a good culture and you're interested in something in common, that people want to see you succeed. And that's something that's just really, it warms my heart, is that we love to see success stories, and people like to be asked and they like to help. And so it really is a community of practitioners, some vendors, researchers, hobbyists. We have people that don't actually work with graph in their daily work life, but they have like personal graphs, the way they take notes is in a graph, that have come in, and all of it comes together to really kind of push us forward and support the community efforts.
Yeah. So what do you have in mind about the trajectory of this community? Where do you want to take the community to?
Well, we're just in January now. So after I get through 2025, one of the things I want to grow as far as like engagement, but two of the big things that I'd like to see happen end of this year, towards next year. Actually, the first thing I want to see happen immediately is to have more projects together. So one of the things I'm noticing in communities, and maybe some people out there are feeling this as well, is that the more you can get small groups together having conversations, I don't care what it's about, but the better and the tighter connections they make. And of course, graphs, we all care about connections. So working on projects together, I think is going to be really successful and very important. So we're looking at doing some GitHub projects. If you have some projects, graphgeeks.org, join the Discord, let us know what you're thinking. We would like to get small groups working together. And then after this, so that's a big focus for this year. After this year, I'd like to explore ideas of consortiums and, having groups that are part of GraphGeeks, as organizations as well, and what that might look like. So those 2 years is enough. I can't look farther than that.
I want to comment on this. For a lot of the geeks out there, like me, and or exploring the graph, trying to get into the graph, trying to see what it can do, trying to find the people or find the guidance, find the advisor, people who can advise you. This kind of small project would be amazing. Not only you get to expose to the people who is passionate about those things, people with the knowledge, people with the know-how, and also you get to expose yourself, like what you make in the project repository like this, many people will find out. And so it's really good for people. Like I know a lot of you guys like me are very shy, but just come on in, join those projects.
Yes.
That's one of the best things can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a warm community. We're eager to work together with people, and I think it's an area that you can have an impact. Yeah. So.
I can imagine as this project starts to grow, you might need a lot of resources or people to help manage those. What do you have in your mind? How do you make this like scalable?
Well, that is part of my 2025 goals, is to figure out how to continue to scale. But this is part of bringing in people who have done community work before. So there are a lot of vendors out there. There's also open source communities that have experience in growing a community and making it sustainable. So I don't think of it as much as being scalable as much as I think of it as being sustainable.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure 10 years from now, when I'm, out walking the dog and not in front of my computer anymore, or whatever it might be, 20 years from now, how do I make sure GraphGeeks keeps going, and how do I lay that groundwork now? And so I'm talking to a lot of community builders to see, like, how do you do that? How do you make sure that it's not one person that has to be there at the core? I guess to me that's success, is when I replace myself with a community that can run without me, I'm successful. And so I don't know what that looks like yet, Wei, but I am exploring. Yeah.
I really admire what you have been doing. It's really it's amazing. Do you have any extra thought, or Yolanda, you have any questions for? Any closing thought on thought?
I guess my closing thought is, I'm going to circle back to why I started it, is although it was a little lonely, a lot of people, I imagine like myself, who love graphs, or maybe it's another niche topic, that when you're at a company or a group or the only one who understands or knows or loves that topic, that can be kind of a lonely thing. You're just like nobody to talk to about your favorite project. And so I'd say if graph happens to be that for you, we get that. Come on in. If it's just, reading a research paper, or we have people who love to tell graph jokes. So if you just want to come in and tell some good graph jokes, we're cool with that too. But it gives you a community to connect with people that have some common interests. And I think in today's world, as much as I can get people to connect, even if it's on a graph joke and not anything technically serious, I think that's a good thing. So come join us, connect, have some fun, and just enjoy your time with the GraphGeeks community. So
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wei.